Here are 2 ways to tap into this winter solstice energy from a Kemetic perspective. It's Boo Fam, peace and blessings. This is Derric, RauKhu more. Happy Heru Day or Happy Winter Solstice. As you know, December 21st to the 24th are the days in which winter solstice is observed. And in this video, just want to go ahead and drop a couple of ideas that I've been working with, something I've been working with since last year when I first talked about winter solstice and when I talked about summer solstice. I want to go ahead and, like I said, share a couple of ideas that I'm doing and I've been doing now for maybe about a few years now in regards to winter solstice. Okay, so let's just go ahead and let's jump right in it. First of all, let me go ahead and say this. The whole reason for celebrating winter solstice is really because, as you all know, Christmas is very, very commercialized. A lot of the spiritual significance of any of this, anything that happens, that is going to improve our lives from a spiritual perspective, most of those have been overlapped, they've been overshadowed by commercialism, okay? And as you know, when you get into the whole spirituality, when you start walking this path, one of the things that you are, basically your main objective is that you're trying to, for the most part, restrict or limit the amount of things that glorify your ego. And Christmas happens to be one of the biggest things that, because of all the commercialism and capitalism and everything else, Christmas is one of those holidays, quote unquote holidays, that really just, it really just feeds and glorifies the ego. Okay. So what a lot of people have done, those of us who are walking on that spiritual path, instead of celebrating Christmas, we basically celebrate winter solstice. Okay. Now, that being said, this does not mean to go out and condemn people who celebrate Christmas. Okay. Remember, you used to be like this too. All right. You just came into the light. All right. So it doesn't mean condemn people who do this. It doesn't mean, beat them down and all that kind of stuff, persecute them and everything, call them all kind of crazy names and all that because of them being involved in this. It basically is a process. It's a process that you are going through, and it's also a process that, other people are going through as well. And part of the reason for doing this video is because I know when you're on this path, it becomes kind of a struggle to try to, especially if you have children or you have loved ones who are not on that same page as you. It becomes really much a real big challenge to try to get them to understand the spiritual significance of this astronomical event versus the secular and commercialized aspect that they are used to. Okay, because there's a lot that's tied to it. There's a lot of symbolism and everything that is tied to this. So in order to kind of, I don't want to say combat it, but basically, yes, to combat it, you gotta go ahead and have to use some other kind of symbolism as well to kind of, deal with it. All right. And so, like I said, here are a couple of ways in which I've gone ahead and which I've done it. Here's a couple of ways in which, like I said, this is probably maybe, I'm not sure, 3rd, 4th year or so doing this. And each time I do it, I keep getting a little bit more insight of how to go ahead and make this a little bit better. So the first thing is, let me go ahead and explain. From a Kemetic shaman perspective, remember, as I've told you before, those of you who've watched any of my previous videos, you know that basically the Kemetic legend of Osir or Osiris is pretty much it's like the Bible of the Kemetic tradition. And as I've mentioned, if you read this story, all right, you read this story and you commit it to memory, it pays you back with a lot of insight. I've read this, I've committed it to memory to the point that it has become, you know how the Bible, some people will say the Bible is a living Bible, it's the living word. Well, this is pretty much how the story of Osir is for me. It is a living thing to the point that I can look at certain things and where I can look at certain events that occur, and it starts making sense to me from a Kemetic perspective. And I mean, you know, I can dream of certain things. I can get all kind of ideas and inspirations and insights from it. So that being said, in the story of Asir, all right, as the story goes, after Set, basically he murders Osir or Osiris, and he usurps the throne. Immediately when Set or Isis hears of, you know, this news, she goes in the morning and she goes looking for the body of Osir. Okay. Now I'm not going to go through all the details or anything. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the main parts. After she finds the body of Osir, she brings the body of Osir back, and you know, according to certain texts or what have you, she changed herself and she magically conceived, magically conceived a child. She magically conceived Horus, you know, with Osir. So on her way, and she's traveling back to her homeland, she takes the body of Osir, she hides it in the marshes, and because now she's pregnant and ready to give birth to, you know, this child, she goes to like a nearby town, or goes to, you know, tries to find some place in which she can actually give birth to Horus. This is during the time when Set is actually looking for her and everything to basically stop the birth of this child. Okay, so you can already know, you know, for those who know the story, you can see the parallels where they got the King Herod thing and all that kind of stuff from. Okay, but not gonna focus on that. That's another story. But anyway, so she goes in search of, you know, like I said, she drops the body of Osir, or puts the body of Osir in the marshes, and she goes to a nearby town to go ahead and find a safe place in which she can give birth to Horus. All right. This is what Winter Solstice means to me. To me, it refers, or it reflects about this time, or, you know, in the story when Set is actually, she's looking for some place safe to give birth to Horus. All right. And as a result, the way in which I go ahead and I celebrate this, because I'm thinking of it as she put all her faith, you know, because Horus basically, from this perspective, Horus symbolizes, he symbolizes all her hopes, you know, all her dreams, all the change that she wants to take place that she cannot implement, or she could not implement in the past. And this is what Horus basically represents. All right. So from that perspective, if you think about it from that perspective, all right, then whenever I go in, I'm celebrating the winter solstice. I'm giving my children, I'm giving them a gift, because I'm still going to give them a gift or so, because, you know, it's kind of hard not to, but I'm going to give them a gift. But what I'm also going ahead and expressing to them is that just like Horus was the last living link of Osir, that my child or my children are the last living link of myself and my wife, you know, that way connecting us to ancestry. All right. So I want them to go ahead, I want my child to reflect and think about that. All right. And this is why I'm also giving them this, because from that perspective, they are my Horus. Okay. They are my hopes and dreams for our family to be, for our family to have a better future. All right. The second way in which I celebrate winter solstice is to go ahead and because this is a time in which Osset was actually looking for, like I said, she's looking for a place, a safe place to go ahead and give birth to Heru. This is a time in which I look at it as a way in which you can overcome a lot of challenges that you are dealing with. So in other words, you got some bad habits, you got some anxiety issues, you have some things that you're trying to overcome, and you were struggling with it. In the past. This is really a very auspicious time to go ahead and address those things, so that in the future they're not there. All right. In the future, basically, you're looking at how to go ahead and get rid of them, how to eradicate them. All right. Same thing with things that you want to manifest. If you basically go ahead and, again, if you look at your Heru, or you look at Heru from this perspective as symbolizing something that you want, something that you desire, then this would make sense as to why you're putting all your, I don't want to say your cards all in, all your eggs in one basket, but you're basically, this is what Heru symbolizes. Heru is the one that's going to fight for whatever it is that you want. And this is, so like I said, this is also, I think, an auspicious time, or this is an auspicious time to go ahead and to put forth things that you want, things that you desire. All right. So from this perspective, the second way of actually celebrating Heru Day or Winter Solstice from a Kemetic Shaman perspective is to treat this like a New Year's Day. All right. So instead of waiting for actual, December 31st, January 1st to make a New Year's resolution, this is the actual time to go ahead and do this, because it is basically, for the most part, I know this is going to sound kind of corny, but it's written in the stars, and this is the reason why you do this. This is the reason why this is a tradition. Winter solstice is a tradition that is still practiced all over the world and continues to be practiced all over the world because people understand the spiritual significance of it. All right. So, like I said, I just wanted to go ahead and just drop those two things on you. Of course, as I've stated before, if you got any suggestions or questions, feel free to drop me a line, especially if you're celebrating this winter solstice, or you're getting into this whole new practice or tradition, and you're trying to explore different ways, and you want to go ahead and you want to, shoot some ideas out. Feel free to go ahead and drop me a line about this. Okay. Until next time, thanks again for sharing, liking, and subscribing. Talk to you later. Hetepu. Peace.